winning is crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity, your opportunity.
You have to differentiate yourself. You don't invest in the brand strategy, brand repositioning to be the same. It's all about creating moments that make people feel valuable and connect to your brand. Brands must keep up with social, cultural, and technology changes to remain relevant, connected to their audience. A successful rebranding requires engagement of the entire team and a strong leadership support. People and organizations from the outside, they help us to not focus on bias.
Hello and welcome to WeMarketers Podcast. I'm Andrew, and my today's guest is Stella Miranda, a branding and marketing strategist with over 10 years of experience in B2B. Stella specializes in creating impactful brand strategies and marketing campaigns that drive interest, build strong brand recognition, and turn prospects into loyal customers. Today, we're going to talk about the rebranding process and what it takes to refresh and strengthen your brand. Stella, happy to have you today.
Hi, Andrew. I'm really happy to be here and to share a little bit of my knowledge with you and all of the public that are seeing us. So thank you for this moment and let's do this.
Many of us picture this dramatic before and after transformation when we hear about rebranding. Is it really just about updating the visual identity, or does it go deeper?
Well, rebranding is often associated with changes to a brand visual identity because this is normally the aspect of the change that most easily noticed by the public. So a brand's visual identity, it is the primary form of visual communication with the audience. So when it changes, the impact is highly noticeable. So, however, there are different types of rebranding, each with its own specific purpose. So there's the brand refresh, there's the brand repositioning, and that's the actual rebranding. So the brand refresh often is associated with the term rebranding, which involves the change in the brand's visual identity. It calls by us the branding expert brand refresh. So it involves updating elements such as logo, color palette, and messaging while retaining the core identity of the brand. So this type is less intense than a full rebranding, and is typically pursued when a company seeks to modernize its image in the market and stay relevant in a changing market, So it may include minor updates to enhance the overall brand experience without altering the fundamental value of the brand. There's the repositioning as well, which involves the change of the brand strategy. So it's a little bit different. Normally, it not focus on the visual identity, but the core identity of the brand is restructure. So this usually happens when there's a shift in the company business direction. And for instance, a highly niche company that decides to expand its business within the category will need to rethink its positioning based on this change. And the company often think, is this target audience still the same? Will its brand messaging remain unchanged? I believe not. So one example that I can share with you is I've observed a lot of energy companies are originally focused on non-renewable energy sources. They are recently repositioning themselves as a provider of a broader energy solution, adding renewable energy to their capabilities. So in this context, they must adapt their entire brand strategy to reflect this broader scope and establish a new relationship with this customer and the contemporary roles And when a company do the both of aspects, like change in the core business and a change in the visual identity, we call it a rebrand. So it's
Hmm.
a major transformation of the brand. When a company needs to reposition itself in a market and adjust its visual identity to ensure the alignment with the brand's new positioning, we call it a rebranding. One widely discussed example last year was Jaguar's rebranding, right? So it was a bold move, but necessary one to communicate the brand's new business vision. With this, they revamped everything from their business strategy to the brand's entire visual expression to align with this new chapter. Another example of this was a rebranding of a Brazilian company, usually called Gym Pass. They launched its marketing repositioning with a completely new strategy, even changing the brand's name to Well Hub. So the company entered the market in 2012 with a goal of facilitating access to gyms by offering monthly subscription that allowed the users to visit different establishments without needing the individual memberships. In 2024, the company announced its rebrand from Gym Pass to Well Hub. This transformation reflects the company's evolution from a gym-focused platform to a comprehensive wellness ecosystem. So, offering services beyond fitness, including mindfulness, therapy, health, and so forth. There was a drastic and complete change on positioning, visual and verbal expression, even the naming. So there's different types of rebranding based on the goal that the company needs to achieve.
Thank you for clarifying this because we usually mix up, right? Rebranding with refreshing and repositioning. So if we want to update some visuals, we say, hey, we are doing rebranding. And in terms of time and efforts, how long does it usually take to complete this process of, for example, refreshing the brand, of repositioning and rebranding at all?
It depends on how much process and strategy involved in this rebranding project. So if it's just a visual update, is more fast than a full completely rebrand strategy. Normally within like 4 or to 8 months a visual refresh, and it depends and the size of the company as well. So if we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about startups that has less point of contact with the brand because all of
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be updated, right? But if it's like a global company, this will endure more. So in a full rebrand strategy, less than a year it isn't. So it's
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 years with whole strategy and
Mm-hmm.
whole updates. Last year, the major bank in Brazil, Itaú, did a full rebrand. And the project was really intense. 1 year and a half and 2 years to do the entire strategy and all the visual updates and the message updates and so forth. But this is only the project. When the project is done, we need to communicate to the market, right? So there's a campaign on
Mm-hmm.
this branding. So these campaigns usually take time to build the strategy and to implement it itself. So when we talk about a bank like Itaú, they needed to update all the trade marketing. So
Mm-hmm.
all of the agencies needed to
Mm-hmm.
rebrand. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of effort in doing that. It's not just the visual elements and the digital ones, but the
Mm-hmm.
trade ones are even more challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine the scope of this work, especially when a company has like offline shops, right? Supermarkets, banks, and so on. A lot
Yeah.
of different visual stuff that need to be placed on the spot. And When it comes to rebranding, how do we know that it's time for rebranding? Are there any rules here?
Rebranding is an important strategic decision that
Mhm.
requires careful analysis of the brand. So, the market and the company objectives. So, the right time to undergo a rebranding depends on specific needs and context of each company. There are some things that we notice that the company may need a rebrand when there's changes in the company or product. So when a company undergo expansion or diversifies products or shift its business model, the brand needs to adapt and reflect this new realities. One other example is in the shifts of competition in an increasingly competitive market where players need to innovate and a value proposition emerge. So brands need to reposition itself to stand out. Fintech, for instance, for example, revolutionize the financial system and forced traditional banks to reinvent themselves is a common example in our ecosystem right now. Changes in the world as well. So brands must keep up with social, cultural, and technology changes to remain relevant, connected to their audience. The growing demand for sustainability, for instance, has driven companies like Patagonia to reposition themselves in the market. When a company faces difficulties in communication and brand perception, so if a brand struggles to convey its value proposition clearly and consistently, or if public perception is misaligned with the desired identity, rebranding may become necessary. There's even changes by merge and acquisition. When two companies merge and one acquire another, a rebranding may be essential to integrate the brands and create a unified identity. And this process may involve creating a new name or a new visual identity and new market repositioning. Shifting companies' culture and convincing leaderships of the needing of rebranding can be challenging. So it's crucial to present data, research, and analysis to demonstrate the potential benefits of rebranding in a business. A successful rebranding requires engagement of the entire team and a strong leadership support and understanding the essence of the brand, the market, and the competition. And the audience needs as well is fundamental before embarking on a rebranding journey.
You mentioned rebranding management process. How to organize this process within the company? Is it okay to do it only internally, or will it be more effective if we find contractors who are more maybe experienced in this? What is your take on this?
I am an advocate of contracting a brand consultancy to do this strategic move. It's a big move and it often involves the entire company, mostly the C levels of the company. And with the inside teams, normally we don't have time and energy to do a project focused only on this. So there's a lot of consultancy and the market specialize and the entire branding process from the research to the communication for the market. And usually these companies work with the head of brand of the company or even marketing. That is the team that advocates within the company to this project. So that's the way I believe that is more effective.
And from my experience, we usually run rebranding and refreshing the brand ourselves, but now I really become more convinced that external contractors can help. And the main point is this fresh view that external experts can drive into your team. Because every day we're working with our visuals, with our messaging, and so on. And it becomes very hard to really see it from different angle.
Yeah, exactly. It's a new view from outside. And whenever we every day work with the same messages, with the same visual, we have the same thinking about the customer or something and so forth. So we have a bias
Exactly,
whenever we
exactly.
contract people and organizations from the outside. They help us to not focus on bias. We will share our view of the brand of the clients. Of course, there's research, and one part of the research at the start of the project is a research within all the stakeholders of the company, the C levels, and so forth, to understand what are the view of current view and what is the vision for the future of the brand, and so forth. So when we have a person that don't have this bias and help us to look at an overall view, it helps a lot.
Rebranding, it's a lengthy process and it involves a lot of people and supposes solving a lot of tasks. Can you walk me through the steps that you take to pass this whole rebranding process?
Is a deep and strategic project that involves major moments like research, strategy, visual and verbal identity, and experience. The first thing you need to do is research. So uh, we do customer research to understand the strengths and weakness of the brand. We do our stakeholder research, as I mentioned, to understand the brand's legacy and
Mhm.
future vision as well. And we do our market research to explore the target audience, the competitors, and the forecast for the future, the cultural and social aspect of the society in that time. And all of this helps generate insights to the market's maturity level, identify the distinct assets of the brand within the category, and to uncover how to create distinction and differentiation for that brand. I usually say that research is like the core of the brand strategy. Usually, we think that our customer thinks that in such a way, or a target audience think in another way. But when we do a research, we actually have this
Mhm.
and understand things that we normally don't see in the surface.
And let's be honest, many companies just skip this step, right? They just go straight away to design, to messaging, and so on.
And that's the main issue of a brand strategy. I know research is costly, but now there's some new companies in the market that is facilitating this
Mm,
thing. I don't know if you know about Apinio. Apinio is a new brand that is facilitating research in the market in a digital way and less costly, and
mm,
they focus on a strategic move for companies and facilitating be more and less costly than the traditional one is pretty less costly. Research is the base of it all. So, and with this research, we go to the strategy. We build the strategy of the brand new repositioning. So at this stage, we develop the entire strategy and the foundation for the brand's new positioning based on this research conducted. So this step is where we establish the brand's new purpose, the values and new attributes, the tagline, the value
mm.
proposition of the brands, and even the brand manifesto. Phase is critical as it lays the groundwork for everything that will follow. With that strategy in place, the focus then shifts to the brand expression, as I normally say, that it is the visual and the brand identity. So the visual and the brand identity must be relied on the strategy. At this stage, we will define how the brand will communicate with its audience and the expressions that will characterize it. So there's the verbal expression. It is how you strategically use words, tone, messaging to bring your brand identity, the personality of the brand, and its values to life. So
Mhm.
this part includes everything from brand names, slogans, taglines, mission statement, voice guidelines, advertising copy, even customer service script. So basically, it's how your brand speaks to the world.
Mm.
And if the brand's message is both didactic enough and serious enough, it builds personality. So the brand has a personality. When you communicate in a consistent way, you create a personality, making it easier to the brand to be recognized. And there's also the visual identity. So as you all imagine, it's all about the brand presents itself visually. It includes a range elements like colors, typography, image, video aesthetics, and even textures. Essentially, it's the visual expression of your brand and how you show up visually. It does include the logo, packaging design, typeface, and the overall styles that ties everything together, right? So
Mhm.
these elements normally work together to create a consistent and recognizable look of your brand. A consistent visual identity across every touch point of the brand helps people to perceive it as more professional, serious, reliable. So this plays a crucial role in building the brand's personality alongside its verbal identity as well.
And how it looks on practice? For example, did you have some maybe clashes even with your customers who developed new brand? For example, they say, "Hey, we like red color just because we like it," and you say, "Sorry, guys, this red color doesn't match your, I don't know, niche or your audience or something like that."
That's a good question because it happens a lot. But when you have the strategy of your brand, you did the research, you structure your strategy. When you go to the visual identity, you have data to present. This type of chat about
Mhm.
I like this more and that more is
Mhm.
close to it. It didn't last because of the data. So normally when we do the research on the competitors, we map all the competitors and we do like a one page, a visual one page of how the competitors are presenting themselves to the market. For example, well, we have 5 competitors. One use the color red mostly, the other the blue, the other the green. So
Mm.
you will not go into the way to use the same colors of your competition, right? You have to differentiate yourself. You don't invest in brand strategy, brand repositioning to be the same.
It's very interesting that you mentioned competitors because I've just got a question regarding this. So, what many companies do, they just scroll through competitors' websites, right? They use these colors, they use these fonts. Let's do the same. At the same time, it looks like we are trying to copy their brand strategies. So, how do you utilize competitors' brands in developing new brand? Do you look at them like the source of inspiration for you, or do you look at them like something that you should avoid in developing new brand?
That's a really good question. I normally use a strategy of understanding how they present itself in the market. We use archetypes to define brands as a personality.
Mhm,
And I normally use a strategy to differentiate the brand for the competitors. I use insights and reference from outside the category to build innovation in the brand's category and analyze even subtle things of the brands, how it's communicating, what kind of brand messages they are using, not just with the product itself, but because in some categories the products is like all the same, like they have
mm,
slightly differentiated in the features,
mhm,
but they're same. So how can I appear in the market in a different way of my competitors and bring message and feeling that the public will resonate more? So it's different to talk about the product, but talking about the value that I, as a brand, generate for you
mm,
and how
mhm,
I can help you with like your challenges or so forth. I forgot to mention the last part of the brand strategy, that is experience. So after the visual and verbal identity, there's a part I do love the most, that is the experience strategy of the brand. And for me, this is the one of the most important areas of differentiation that companies can build today. What is the brand experience? Is all
mhm,
about
mhm,
creating mindful moments of delight with the public. So when the brand defines and designs its brand moment, as I
mhm,
usually call brand moment, that it's those instances where it surprises the
mm,
customer along their journey. A simple example I can share with you is like, how can I handyman or a plumber
mhm,
can stand out in a saturated market? Think about it. If you hire plumber and after like I have a major problem, right? I'm hiring a plumber, and after fixing my issue, if they give me a basic maintenance guide to prevent future problems, or perhaps a thank you note for choosing their service, you wouldn't feel like impressed. And imagine if they went an extra mile and left a small emergency kit with simple tools for you for minor fixes that
mhm,
you will need. So that kind of thoughtful touch make the experience more memorable. So
mhm,
the next time I need this type of service, I will remember them immediately. And if anyone that I know asks for a recommendation, I will be more than happy to refer them. So that's
mhm,
differentiation. And you can say this for a lot of types of business and product as well. So like a personal trainer, it's a saturated market. How the cake can differentiate itself, or even a doctor. How
mhm,
the doctor are the same. They are
mhm,
solving your problem, issue of your health, but how can they go a extra mile to
mhm, mhm,
impress yourself? And this kind of thoughtful points of contact of the brand with the
mhm,
customer feels like they are, well, I'm seeing, right, they are actually care about me, and I will remember them in the future when I need it.
mhm.
And it's all about creating moments that make people feel valued and
Yeah.
connect to your brand.
Rebranding, it's always a kind of risk that customers will alienate or will not recognize the updated brand. How do you handle these risks and how do you communicate brand so customers will receive the right messages?
I believe the biggest challenge in the rebranding lies in internal alignment synergy within the company. First of all, and most important for me is the C-level involvement in the rebranding strategy. And they participate on the journey. When I conduct a brand project, I usually gather the key C levels of the company for discussing and the alignment of them, because sometimes they don't even know what they are thinking, and sometimes one person thinks in a way and the other thinks in a more different way. So it's really important for them to understand and to align what will be the strategy. The most important thing of the brand consultancy is to align this and gather all of these key people to build upon this new brand strategy. And the second thing is the engagement across department during the post rebranding and implementation phase. So when you do a rebrand, you change visual aspects, you change the tone of voice and brand messaging. You need to gather all departments to be aligned with this new strategy. And it's important because in a brand strategy, all of the points of contact of the company needs to be consistent and needs to have the same brand messaging, the same understanding of what is the company now and the
Mm.
future. So, for instance, when I call to a customer service, this person is part of the brand. I don't see it like an
Mhm.
individual person, but I'm talking with the brand, right? So, if this customer success person talks in a so different way as I
Mhm.
see in like the digital world, I will, oh my God, there's something wrong, really wrong.
Mhm.
So this is so important to build the consistency the brands needs.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
these two aspects, if they're not treated as a prioritize, there are huge risk that the project will ultimately fail.
Yeah, this is really a risky thing, especially considering how many efforts were put into this. And one of the favorite topics of marketers, measuring the success. How do you measure the success of rebranding? Is it ROI, brand awareness, or something like that? Which metrics can we use?
Well, there's a various ways to measure branding efforts. Each one is on a specific level of investment. Normally, we see some people saying, oh, brand is difficult to measure because it's not A to B, right? Like performance, you put money and you get the ROI within a few days of the campaigns. Brand is a long time effort. You are
Mhm.
building the brand. You're not just selling the problem, you're talking to a larger public,
Mhm.
and you have to build in a solid ground. I can differentiate the type of measurement in a highly investment methods and like a more common and cost effective method. The higher investment methods is like the most traditional ones. These typically involve research companies and tend to be more expensive. So there's a brand recall that measures how well customers remember your brand when they are thinking about the category. There's the brand's health tracking, that is a holistic view of that evaluates multiple aspects of the brand's performance, such as awareness, perception, loyalty, and market position. And there's the brand lift studies as well, is focused on gauging the immediate impact of a specific advertising campaigns or like
Mhm,
marketing efforts on brand perception. And there's the common and most cost-effective methods
mhm,
that these options are more accessible and often require fewer investment and resource, and more focusing on digital as well. So there's a digital brand awareness that you use like metrics like impressions,
mhm,
reach, and organic growth. So how
mhm,
more people are seeing my brand. And
mhm,
there's engagement rates when you monitor clicks, shares across digital platforms. So you in the engagement rates, you measure how the public resonate with your messaging and your brands. There's the share of market as well, that you measure how you use the share of your brand, and you can leverage tools like SEMrush or
mhm,
social
mhm.
listening and sales data analysis for that. And of course, there's customer surveys that I love to gather feedback directly from your
Yeah.
customers to understand the brand sentiment, the loyalty, the satisfaction, and even you gather some opportunities to improve as well. Your customers, the best people to help you understand what needs to be improved on your brand. One approach provide valuable insights and making it possible to tailor the measurement strategy to the needs and budgets. So you have to understand what kind of impact you want to measure and use this different kind of research to measure it.
For someone considering rebranding for his or her business, what will be one piece of advice that you would like to give?
Well, I think I already mentioned that, but I need to reassure here that you need to get the support of a brand consultancy for this journey,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
rebranding is more than just a change of visual expression as we normally understand. It's about business strategy. So rebranding means rethinking your business strategy and ensuring that your brand communicates it effectively to the market. So I see many brands now hiring a designer to handle the rebranding and neglecting the structure to structure the strategic side where the real focus should be. So design is only one part of the project, and it must be deeply rooted in the differentiation strategy that company wants to convey to the market. So if isn't well structured, you will end up just a visual change, and that's won't sustain in a long-term strategy.
Stella, thank you very much for such a structured conversation and so many insights on rebranding. I believe now it will be for us as a marketers much easier to navigate through this process. What is the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
Connect with me on LinkedIn, much engaged on the platform, and I have a website as well.
I will add everything in the show notes. And guys, if you need support on rebranding, branding, visual identity, Stella is your go-to person. Please reach out to her. Once again, thank you very much for taking time and participating, and bye bye.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It was really great to share a little bit of my perspective on brand strategy, and hope to see you again. Bye bye.
Winning is crazy. Your opportunity, your opportunity.